This is why I never wear my hair down. Alright, hey guys, it's Caitlyn. I'm back again. I feel like doing a story time. The tale I'm about to tell you guys is from my sophomore year of high school. If you go to my school, you probably already heard this because I don't try to cover it up because it happened, and if other people can learn from this, then they're gonna learn from it, and I want them to because it was so embarrassing. I am in my school's band program. We have a really big band, right? So we have about 200 people in our marching band alone. Like, concert band is even bigger because I go to like a fancy like art school kind of thing. So my sophomore year, it was my first year marching because my freshman year I couldn't march my freshman year because the summer going into freshman year I had to get back surgery, which I'm gonna make a separate video about that because it's just a really long story. And because of that, sophomore year was my first year marching. So the story begins. My second competition. This happened at a competition. Not at a practice, not at a football game. So, as I said, my band is pretty large. Well, I happen to be a horn player, so that means we literally had 5 people in my entire section. The second smallest section was like 12, I think, 10. If someone were to see it, they would know it was one of us. It would be so easy to like figure out which one it is. It wasn't a secret. I wasn't trying to hide it. Nobody else was going to try to cover it up. It was literally on video, this happening. I'm just going to straight out say it. We were at our second competition that year and I fell. I fell at a competition where we were literally being judged. I had never fallen before when we were actually like marching on the field. So the very first time that ever happens is when it actually matters. We're marching at our show, right? We're just all, it's going along really well. It's really cold that day. That's the one thing I remember, was that it was really cold. And we live in Georgia, so it's never really that cold here. So the entire time I was so like concerned with my mouthpiece because, you know, mouthpieces go on your mouth. And if that gets messed up, then you're going to sound bad. That's where most of my thought process was for the entire show. I was just kind of like going through the movements, you know, just doing the things that I like needed to do. And it was not bad. It wasn't a bad run. It wasn't a perfect run, but it wasn't bad. So we get to the ballad. The ballad is the second piece in a marching show. It's like the slow one, right? Our show was called Superheroes. Basically, it started off with like the Avengers theme, and then slowly it moved into like taps and like all this stuff, and they had like, I think it was like John F. Kennedy or something talking, like they were playing a recording, and it was a very powerful moment. So there was this part where we didn't move for, I think it was like 32 counts. So we stood still for 32 beats. So he was like, this is a very powerful moment. We had like a trio going on, and like someone in my section was playing America the Beautiful and somebody else was playing taps, and then there was a baritone player playing, and it was really good. So he was like, we're gonna do a kneel. So basically this kneel, I'm about to show you guys what he had us doing, cause it's not even that hard. I don't know why I fell, I just did. I'm wearing shorts, by the way, don't judge me. Basically, we're standing here, had to step out, and then when a certain part of the music were to come, we'd have to get back up and then be back at attention. I almost fell doing that because I'm so unbalanced. So we do that. I've never messed it up before. Never once in my life have I messed it up. So we're at the second competition. I'm feeling really confident because this is a pretty good run. So we get to the ground and I'm like looking up with my horn in my hands and I'm just like, yes, like it's balancing on my knee, everything's fine. I go to stand up and one of my legs completely freaks out. All I can feel is my legs start shaking. So I'm getting up, I'm halfway there, and then my leg goes, you thought, and I land flat on my back. So I land on my back, and I'm like, okay. So at the time, I was just like, I just gotta get up, I just gotta keep going, and that is the message you need to get from this, because if you're in marching band and you mess up, recovery is always key. Just pick yourself up and keep going. But it was just the timing of when everything happened. Like, it had never happened before until we were at a competition. And the worst part was that there was a soloist standing 2 people away from me. So people were looking at him. I could literally hear people in the crowd. And I look up and I stand up and I just get back in my spot because there's literally nothing else I can do at that point. And I look over and I see my director. He's just like, oh my gosh. He just looks at me and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I just get so mad. So then the entire rest of the show, I'm mad. And when I play mad, I get really loud. So I was kind of blasting, and then I like realized I had to back off. So there's this one point after I fall where you can literally hear me like, I'm going like, bah, and it's just, oh, it's so awful. So I like march through the show. It's not that bad. And then we go to walk off the field. So I'm walking off. And my instrument's down. I'm just like ignoring everyone. I can feel people looking at me because, as I said, my section is really small. A lot of people thought it was this other girl in my section because we're both really short and everybody else in our section is really tall. So they were like, oh, well, it was probably her. So people, like, I was just gonna not talk about it. I was just gonna let it go. So I'm standing there in the lines and my band director goes, okay, you guys can relax now. And I'm still standing there. I'm just standing there. I'm not moving because I'm still in shock from the event that just happened. And he goes, I saw what happened and I just want to know you made a really nice recovery. So literally, nobody would have even known it was me. Everybody would have assumed it was someone else until he said that. So then it wouldn't have been that bad. And some people didn't even see it. But the thing that you have to keep in mind is I was 2 people away from the soloist, or the person in the trio, and I was right on the front sideline. So literally it was like me and then the rest of the band. Like my section was in this line and then the rest of the band was like following around back here. So when I fell, everyone behind me could see it happen. Half of the band saw me fall in the middle of a competition. And that was the point of that night where I literally had, it wasn't a panic attack per se, but I literally was just like, oh my gosh, I like cried, I was freaking out. But the main message of this story, any mess up that you make, as long as you make a good recovery, that's the best you can do. If something like that happens and you fall, because that's not the only time I've done it since then either, as long as you just get back up when you fall, they can't take a bunch of points off for that, because sometimes accidents just happen. While we're here, I'm just going to tell the story of the other time that I fell, because little me, it happened twice. The second time it happened was actually this year, my senior year, so 2 years later, right? My county has 3 high schools. My high school, a kind of not so great high school, and then a kind of just their high school. Like, they're not super, like, we're not all on the same level. And band-wise, our band is, like, killing it, and the one band is like, ooh, and then the other band is like, eh. Like I said, we have a fine arts school, so the other bands, the really good players come to our school instead of going to their school. So we have a lot of the really, really good players. And our 3 high schools do this thing where once a year we get together, right? So we get together and we all do our shows. This year it was at our school, so we were going last. This event was like a practice run for a competition. I think 2 of our high schools go to competitions, and we're the ones that go to the really hard ones. We had judges come. Once again, we're being judged. We go to 3 competitions a year with one, we call it exhibition. So this happened at exhibition, and everything was fine. Everything was cool. And then it was in the very first piece, of course, when we're in these lines and literally we're like 2 steps apart. I'm sorry if this is making a sound. I'm playing with a chair below me. So there's this part where we're literally 2 steps apart. So I have to back march, but going at an angle. So I'm going like this in this direction. So I can't see where I'm going. This girl in front of me is a freshman, and she's like right here to me. So I start moving, and then she starts moving, and then I don't know what happened, but somehow she ended up stepping on my foot. And then I didn't even know it was happening. All of a sudden, it was like, I was like, what if she steps on my foot right now? And then she stepped on my foot, and then I was on the ground. I literally just hit the ground, my own stadium. I was sitting there, I was just like, are you kidding me? Literally, as I hit the ground, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? So I get back up. Keep in mind, there's only 3 people in my section this time because the other ones left. And so I get back up. It's really obvious who it is at this point because I'm literally the only girl in my section. So they just look at me and they're like, did she really just fall again? Like, how does this happen twice? So I get back up, I look around, I'm like, where are we right now? Because I honestly didn't even know. And then I jump back in my spot. And then, of course, as I said, recovery is key. So the other band realizes, because there was one band that was sitting in the middle and then one band that was sitting like on the side. And of course, the bands were like, oh, someone just fell. And then they were like, oh, that was a good recovery. So they all started clapping. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm going to try to get someone to send a link to me because I will put in the clip of it happening. Here, cue the clip. Yeah, that happened. I'm not even lying. This isn't just to like make people click on this video because this actually happened. And of course, I'm just really mad at this point because I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm not even upset. The entire way back to the band room, I'm just like joking around like, it happened twice. And of course, some of the freshmen didn't even know that it happened to me before this event. So they were like, oh, it's not that bad. And they were like hugging me. I was like, this is not the first time this has happened. So literally at this point, after I leave, my director is going to tell jokes. They're not jokes, but he loves telling stories about people he's taught in the past. And I know for sure I'm going to be one of these stories because he's already used me as an example at least twice for 2 different things. So no doubt he's probably gonna use me as a story. And then, oh my gosh. So we had the people judging, so they had their like comments on the tapes. We listened to a tape the next class and they go, oh, horn player just fell, but she got back up, so that's okay. My director didn't even know until they said that. So literally that happens. Half the band looks over at me in this class and I'm just like, oh my gosh, why does this always happen? But, you know, as I said, recovery is key. It's not the end of the world. You're not gonna get like killed by someone for falling. You just have to get back up and keep going. And that is the message I give to you today. It always gets better. It might seem like awful at first because believe me, it did. But, you know, eventually you just kind of learn how to cope. So I hope you guys liked hearing the story about literally the most embarrassing things that have ever happened to me. I like telling that story a lot to the incoming freshmen, so if you're like a freshman in high school or whatever and you're in marching band and you're afraid to march at a competition or a football game, just listen to this and hopefully it'll make you feel better. I wasn't at first, but this year I was actually the section leader and it still happened. And you know, nobody got super upset about it. Nobody was freaking out at me except for myself. So just know it happens to everybody. You just gotta get back up and find your spot and keep going. You know, leave a like if you enjoyed. I will probably tell some more story times. I do embarrassing stuff a lot, sadly. I will probably make another one of these in the future. And yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I know I already said that. But have an awesome day and I'll see you guys next time.